Alright, here we go. We're building an AR15. This video we're going to put the trigger pins in this lower, and we're going to use this tool from Avid. And first thing I had to figure out is which pin's which, and I'm glad this came with the springs and the detents. I have a set of them in my lower parts kit up here, but just I know that these are the right ones because I came with it. Now, figuring out which pin is which, just looking at it, that one looks like it goes in the back, this longer one goes in the front, so we're going to do the front one first. And here's this little tool, which I kind of figured out that you have to put it in like this, and we slide this in this way, I believe. So that when you slide it all the way in, this will be able to look through there and go into the spot where the spring and detent go. And it has a little hole in the tool, so it should fall right into there. And then the detent, and then we should be able to push this down. You can see that that silver would push down in there, and then you rotate this up, so that will put the flat edge against the detent and the spring, holding it there. Then we should be able to remove this silver piece, take our pin, and make sure we have our area for the detent to catch into, and slide it straight on in. So that should be the process. Now we'll see if we can actually get it to work. But first I'm going to put just a little bit of this little lube, and I have no idea what I'm doing, but I've seen some videos, so we'll just put a little bit in here. We'll go with a less is more on most of these times, but that's there. Alright, so we'll start out, get our spring, and these look identical, the springs and the detents, so I'm feeling okay about that. Okay, that kind of fell all the way in. And then I'm going to look at this detent pin. It looks identical on both sides. So both sides have a little raised edge, so I don't think there's any difference. So we'll drop that in, and then we'll try to push those. Okay, so that does take a little effort, and I could see the detent, and then I can see the silver when I got to the silver point. So now I can probably just rotate that up. Okay, so I've rotated that up. So the spring and the detent are still held in there by this little tool. And we'll try to just kind of slide this one in through there. And it just clicked, so I think that was the detent coming into the groove on this forward takedown pin. It looks like that's all I can slide it. So this probably can come out now. Hopefully this doesn't pop off anywhere. That comes out. Okay, we can see the detents right in there, and this is almost to the edge. Don't want that to fall out, but I think this now should just slide in. And there it goes. It's a little bit more force than I would have thought it would needed, but we shall see if that'll loosen up. Okay, there we go. I'm going to put a little bit of lubrication on this. Just to help with it. It's a little stiff. but it should work itself out a little bit. That's getting better. All right. That's our forward takedown pin. Nice, cool blue. Awesome. This little tool worked great. And I'll just put this away since now I'm done with this little tool forever, or at least till the next time. I've forgotten how I put it all together. That went there, into the hole. This was somewhere there. I'll just leave it like that. All right, so now we are going to install the rear takedown pin, spring and detent. The pin itself, I think it's pretty simple. It's got the aligned blue right there. So we'll put some lube on that. It's going to go in this side. And it's just going to fall straight in there like that. But the part that holds this in is the actual buffer tube. And that's right here, where the buffer tube and this retaining piece and I think it's a castle nut. And then we can put the spring in afterwards. But the buffer tube also has to have this buffer tube retaining pin that goes in right here. And then also a spring which goes underneath there, so that when that'll stay there as the tube gets screwed in. This looks like it's the same on either side for the most part. Looks about identical. Maybe it's a little bit smaller on one side than the other. Yep. So that's how that will fit on. And this will go again with the spring, and the detent will go in here. So actually it's going to go detent first, because the detent goes into the takedown pin, I would assume. And then the spring will go on top of that. And this will hold that in as we screw in the buffer tube. Make sense? Looks like it makes sense to me. Let's try to put it together. First we need to pull out our buffer tube catch. So there's our buffer tube pin. And now figuring out which one is the buffer tube spring, I might have to pause and go look and see which one of it is. It's got to fit in here, and it's got to hold that. So I think it's this smaller one, but it might be this larger one. So we're going to pause and go figure it out real quick. All right, I think I figured out this spring is the one that goes in this. This spring is about twice the size of the buffer tube pin. I think that's the one that goes right in there. So we'll go with that. So we got our detent, got our buffer tube pin. I'm going to put a little bit of lubrication on this set of threads here. So we'll take our castle nut and we'll screw this on. This is going to go in the back here. So this castle nut needs to be like this, I believe. So hopefully this screws on easily. Take just a second getting it started, but we'll screw it all the way as far as we go on here. And that one goes to there and stops. Okay, so now we saw that on this little retaining ring, there's a smaller side versus this larger side. So this small side is the one that's going to fit into this lower, just like that. So we'll slide this on here, and this is indexed here at the bottom. Again, that's going to hold the spring and detent for the takedown pin. And we'll go ahead and put a little oil in there. I'm going to put our buffer tube pin and spring in. That makes sense, that's there, and you can push that down, and then our buffer tube will roll right up to the edge of that pin, from what I understand. Put a little lubrication on these threads here as well. So now I'm going to go ahead and slide the takedown pin in, make sure that that cavity is towards the back so the detent can fall into that. Here's our detent. We'll drop that in. Here's the spring. Put that in. And just make sure that that's in there and the detent's in there. Now we'll start screwing this in. And everything I read, you have to be careful because this little piece will catch that spring. And we can see that spring on the bottom. So we'll just take this as far as we can here without knocking that spring too much. Ooh, almost dropped my pin out. And actually, I'm just going to go ahead and hold that there. See if I can. Oh, you can't do that because you have to keep that indexing correct. But the distance this goes just coming around the spring again. And now that just ran into the bottom of this, so it's not going to take much more. So I'm going to push that down, come around the spring, Now I think that's going to line up as soon as I get that another quarter turn or get to this side. And it's kind of holding the pin down right now. So I just have to come under this spring here a little. This one last time and hopefully not shoot it through anything. Maybe I can use a tiny flat. To hold the spring down a little bit. Doesn't really feel like it goes any further. I had to push that buffer pin all the way down to get past that lip. It looks like it'll pop right up into that spot. But we got to get the spring back down in here. Oh, I think we got it. Okay, yeah, I just had to use a little punch to kind of hold that tube down. And our spring looks good right here. But I don't like how that's not fitting into the tube. A little tension on the castle nut there. Trying to get this to fit back in here. Maybe I need to tap it a little, give it a little guidance. There we go. So just a little tap. I'll just get this hand tight. So we got our buffer tube pin is there. Probably should have done that before, but now we need to check and see if our takedown pin is going to work, right? Like before, I might put a little lubrication on that, so it should pop out, and there it stops. Good. All right, so we're going to tighten this up. I have some wrench that supposedly can do this. And I'm not going to, I think they call it stake this. But I just got that hand tight there. You could stake that if you never wanted to remove this, but I might put something that's like a folding thing on there at some point, and I've heard that that will make it hard to get off. So I'm just going to leave it kind of torqued on here. And I'll look it up if I need to actually torque it to a certain amount, but that's on there good and tight. All right, buffer tube. This is interesting padding here. I haven't picked out a stock yet for this build, so that's going to be one thing to do. All right, so did a little takedown pins forward and aft, and the buffer tube is on there, castle nuts on there, buffer tube retainer. So I think the last thing there is to do with this is to put this spring in. This is the actual buffer. I would have thought it would have said how much it was, but it doesn't. Now this has some non-rounded edges, some flats. So this should go in here, get past the, there we go, past the little buffer pin, and then we'll just make sure it's turned. See, that's the pin that's going to stop that. There we go. All right, buffer tube, takedown pins, done. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, watch the next ones. We're going to get into the trigger next, so we'll break that out and take a look and see how that goes into this whole build. Should go down in here somewhere. All right, thanks for watching. All right, if you enjoyed the videos, thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button and you'll be notified as soon as the next ones come out. Have a good one.